Alrighty. How's it going?
It's awesome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How do you pronounce your name?
Laszlo Bergovecz.
Laz. Okay, Laz.
You can call me Laz to make
Laz.
it easy.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Alex O'Connor here in a sec. But first, tell anybody listening what it is you do.
Oh, yeah. I do plenty of things, but as a vegan activist or like someone who is caring for a more vegan future, if it's possible, happen to be the president of the Hungarian Vegan Society or Association, rather. Um, yeah, this is where I'm spending most of my activist time. But on the other hand, I am trying to influence the market in the region. So what me and a couple of friends of mine were starting a brand called the Vegan Business Circle, which is meant to hold together vegan businesses so they can have easier access to each other, so they are more familiar with each other, and they have just keep everything more fluent, giving them opportunities to learn from each other, yeah, stuff like that, and which is a slightly more bigger. Sorry, I gotta move things on, yeah, monitors, screens. Yeah, so there's a bigger scoop where we're trying to hold together all the plant-based businesses. It's a huge alliance. If I try to translate it, it's the plant-based food and distributors alliance. If I'm like translating it weird, it's called NEJOS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Now, is that plant-based companies in Hungary, or is that all the plant-based stuff from everywhere else sent into Hungary?
Well, whatever makes any role, and yeah, we're trying to keep them together. Like, for example, like big companies, I don't know, should I mention?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay. So like Nestle and Alpro, these kind of big ones are in as well, but also the small ones as well. So the point is to try to show that how there is a weight for it. I wanna dodge the word lobbying group, but it's kind of that. Like, we want to show that there is a significant amount of makers and retailers who cares about this section of the market.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can influence, like, I don't know, taxation system and stuff like that. Yeah, I hope I explained it well.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And then also, do you want to mention what you were just telling me about Peter Singer's book?
Oh yeah. Well, a few years back now, we translated the first time to Hungarian the Peter Singer Animal Liberation book, and yeah, I happened to be part of that that group.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. I guess we'll hop right into it with Alex. So
Yeah.
I saw Alex's announcement. You saw Alex's announcement. That's
Yeah.
where I found you, was in a comment section, maybe on rationality rules.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my first what I want to know is what your thoughts are on Alex's announcement.
Yeah, I'm following these two guys because I was curious about this atheistic approach, like how they talking about this whole religion, atheism, I don't know, discussion. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was curious, and then the first time I heard them talking about veganism, they were in the garden talking about veganism, and I was like trying to send their messages as well in the comment section, and then a few months later, then Alex turned vegan. I was like, yay! And this well-spoken, literate guy will, like, gonna kill in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I was like really happy to hear him talking. Like he's got some fiery speeches in Tel Aviv and in England. There was the vegan camp out. He had the talk there. I like that as well. Which, yeah, we're doing some translations as well, as you heard about the book. So we wanted to have a translation of his speech there, because he was talking about like being vegan is not enough technically. You should vocalize it, and then you've done something what's gonna make some change. That was, yeah, it's in a nutshell, a very not nutshell. Yeah. So yeah, and after when he well, at first I thought like it could be a joke because he's funny, but when I saw, just remember that there's a Michaela Peterson conversation, and I was like, you were very kind to that girl, which I understand, but yeah, maybe a bit more firm you could be, and protecting someone who can't protect him or herself or itself, let's just say. Yeah, so that I was confused. Let's just say that I was confused. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, let me throw out a couple things. So first of all, I'm glad that the first thing you saw of him was that conversation outside with, I believe Rachel was her name, but then, yeah, Steven from Rationality Rules and Alex.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite conversations I've ever seen, just because it's so fascinating to see two philosophical guys, that one is a vegetarian, not vegan, and one is a meat eater, an acting omnivore. And they both were, during discussion at least, and philosophically, were talking as vegans. Like they couldn't, all their conversation, everything they got out, whether they acted upon it or not, was that the right thing to do is be vegan. Both the vegetarian and the meat eater felt this, and you could see the wheels kind of turning. I feel like maybe a conversation like that, even though Alex and Steven aren't I don't think they're personal friends, like outside of like YouTube conversations, I got the vibe that they've never had a one-on-one talk like that, and that on camera we were seeing Alex figuring it out. And that's we see that all the time with street conversations like Ed Winters does, but it's rare to see it with somebody that's so intelligent that has thought so many things out, to see that. So that was just very magical for me to see Alex do that. Like, instead of showing people intentional vegan videos, I wanted to show the world that I want meat eaters to see this meat eater talk about it. And so I thought, anyways, I went on and on telling everybody I knew about that video. And so it was exciting to hear that you watched it the same time I did.
Yeah.
And then
that was very interesting to see. You're right. And then when afterwards he were talking about like moral consideration of the animal kingdom, and whether we like it or not, we have to. He was phrasing that, and it was, so it's not just someone who understands the problem, but understands the problem with society, because that's the real problem. Like, how are we gonna make the right steps as a society, like that was both was very interesting. See him first time thinking through in depth the whole situation, and then when he were understanding what has to be done.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like most people that eat meat, the reason that they're so defensive with vegans is that nobody wants to be seen as a bad guy. So if a vegan's saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't eat meat because it's making them suffer, the other person, their intuition is telling them, well, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. So I need to defend what I'm doing instead of thinking it through. And I think that's the difference between your average person that goes off of intuition and then someone like Alex who uses reasoning and rationality. And I think that's an important thing that we all need to teach ourselves how to always do, whether it's veganism or just other political things or hearing personal things from your friends that you need to stop and think about it logically. And so this person that eats meat, instead of thinking, how do I defend my actions? When him and Stephen were talking about animals in the forest, or like, I think one of the main things they talked about was the difference of, is it worse to like punch a cow in the face than to kill like a grasshopper or something like that? And they were like analyzing the details of sentience and all this stuff. And yeah, it was just so magical. But so the other thing I wanted to mention though was the Michaela Peterson thing. I think I watched a video of Alex responding to people that were bothered by that conversation, and he was pointing out that when you talk to people that aren't vegan, you like you're just going to scare them away if you're just saying all the worst stuff. And so it's good to kind of see where they're coming from. And I don't know exactly where that cutoff is. And I don't think he meant that you should lie to make them feel comfortable with you. But it's like, if you feel extreme ideas, you don't need to always tell them all at one time. For example, I don't know how you feel about pets, but I personally don't think humans should own animals at all. But I also don't think that that's a go-to for vegans. Like when vegans try to convince other people to go vegan, they probably should never mention that at all, because if you say you need to cut out your meat, you need to cut out your dairy, cut out your eggs, oh yeah, and give away your pet. The more extreme you go, the more people are going to be thrown off. So if your goal is to convince them to end some suffering, then you need to make sure that your words aren't making them just want to fight you and have a big argument, unless it's an intended debate. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, on pets, I think you're right. We shouldn't own any conscious being, because that's what slavery was about. Like, of course, it's a different measure because it's different consciousness, maybe or maybe not. We have some ideas what animals are feeling, or mostly what the feelings, because that's what we understand when they squeal or having some I don't know, bad days. You can tell if you have if there's a animal around you. Let's just say that. What I think though, if we live in a society, because right now what's happening, we decided to move into cities and towns and places where we live, and then we said there's no other animal allowed here. It's just us, unless you are responsible for one of them or any of them. And then when you say like, yeah, I am responsible for this, then right now, because animals has no practical rights, you have the right to do whatever is your accepted behavior in that certain culture you are in. So that's a general thing. And what I think we should do whenever it comes to animals in a human society, it should be kind of like a companion animal, in a way that we look after them. That's understandable, because this world what we built is not okay for stray animals, because cars and loads of accidents can happen. So that's why it's a good thing to look after them. But on the other hand, it's a bad thing to say like, this is mine, so you will have a weird misunderstanding, then you can do whatever you want with it, or him or her, them. That's them. I mean, yeah. In Hungarian, when we say him or her, that's the same. That's yeah. So I'm sometimes confusing these. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what I think about pets. So you're right, we shouldn't own them, but I think look after them is important, as long as we have a society, or more like a civilization built like we are living in now.
Do you think it would be ideal at some point to not have any pets though? Like, would you think it would be best if starting today, every domesticated dog and cat was spayed and neutered, and we would never have another one of these like man-made domesticated animals?
I think yes.
Okay.
I live together with a cat. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
she might gonna turn up here, and she is. I'm not sure how you say that, but she is not able to reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a technical term for it which I don't know in English. Sorry about that.
Yeah, spade is what they usually refer to
Spade.
with
Yeah,
cats. Yeah.
I've almost used the word because I heard
Mm-hmm.
that you used it, but I wasn't sure how it's female or male or
Yeah,
good for both.
spade for females, neutered for
I see.
males. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually kind of devastating how they do it. I don't know if in Hungary they do it differently. I just found out recently that for the females, they do a full hysterectomy. They remove the uterus and everything. And so it's not just like a tying of tubes or anything. It's pretty devastating. So I don't even like the process of the spaying and the neutering, but as far as not bringing further suffering into it, like to having babies that will suffer or at least be in this world where they're not out in nature, so it's picking the better of two evils. Another element that's kind of devastating to me is mammals in general. Part of their lives are to reproduce and to, they get in heat and they mate and they make children. And I don't know how much of their psyche is affected by that, but the idea that because we want to do the right thing and not have a bunch of strays, we spay and neuter them,
Yeah.
but their lives in general, their happiest lives, if they weren't domesticated and they were wild, their happiest lives would probably involve that act of reproducing, which is why you
Yeah.
see like some dogs and stuff like humping a stuffed animal. And so I don't know to what level we're actually just like messing with their lives with these actions we do, but it seems wrong to mess with nature in that way.
Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely true. I think these kind of animals uh, are a victim of our society or civilization at the
Mhm.
moment. Uh, yeah, and I don't know how. When I'm looking at Mao, this very cat,
Mhm.
uh, she look happy.
Mhm.
She enjoys being around us, and even though she is not the kind of a creature who likes the being petted, like
Mm.
we respect that. We very rarely doing anything against her will, unless I don't know, she was ill, and we had to give them pills, and that was
Mm.
a struggle because that was kind of the first time we really like interacted with her. Like, you have to do this. You have no other options, and of course she didn't want to. So
Mhm.
she was like very conscious about things, like keeping the pill in the mouth and acting like, yeah, it's all fine, and then it wasn't swallowed. It was in
Yeah.
her mouth. She walked away and spit it out. So she had
Gotcha.
the concept of timing and stuff like that, and no one can say like, oh, it was just an instinct. It wasn't. It was a well calculated decision, which is
That's
interesting.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but yeah, we and actually I was wondering, like, these hormones are going to I'm not knowledgeable enough on
Mhm.
this level, so this is a little bit of a speculation, but the hormones are changing, so I think there's an instinct goes away, or partly. I don't think she wants to have any kind of sexual interaction or reproduction.
Mhm.
I can't see any urges like that. And
Yeah.
I don't know what was removed. I know how the incision was very small.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know. It could be how everything is inside and just tied, or I don't actually know.
Yeah.
You were saying about the Michaela Peterson and Alex's talk, and you said how when he was reacting it about it, and he was saying like, we have to change the way we talk to people who might not be able to do the whole step what necessary.
Mhm.
And I would push back a bit, because I think even though uh, we have to understand how the other person might not be able to do what has to be done, like changing the whole lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially in a recorded situation, like somebody else gonna look at this, we have to consider the other people, whoever look at it. And he was saying like, yeah, and the people who she's going to reach are all carnists. Let's just use this Dr. Melanie Joyce term. I like carnists more when it comes to, especially when we talk about this, because they were talking about this food issue, like she's doing the lion's diet and all that.
Yeah.
Because when we say like they're omnivores, we are still omnivores, even though we decided to eat only plants. So that's an omnivore's decision. That's our genetic strength against the other kind of creatures who can't make a decision like that. And since we can, we have this moral dilemma we're facing now. And that was one of the main points when he acknowledged Michaela's illness. I am not a nutritionist or a medical person at all. I do understand some stuff about it. It sounds to me how if a human being wanna get all the nutrients to build up the body, even though it has some inner defections, after a while, even if there's like we are in a food desert and we can't get everything what we want, like daily dozens of, what's his name?
Dr. Michael Greger.
Michael Greger, yes, he's the one. Even if there's not available right there, you can heal your body and make it able to do whatever we do now and eat on only plants, I think. And that's what I heard from dietitians, even in my little microcosm. Whenever somebody have a problem, I am bringing them to medical professionals and providing the contact, and they resolve the problem. So they know what to do. And there's the same issue what Alex was claiming, like philosophically and health-wise, he has to reconsider his previous statements about veganism. And I don't think, I'm confused because
you're fine.
Because whenever you are having a platform like Alex does, he speaks to 500,000 people, and you can share any details of your life. And then when you decide to share something like that, that comes with caveats always. And it's not enough to say just, I'm thinking about it. Like if you made a decision and it's important and it's life-changing and altering like this sounds like, I think there is a responsibility comes with it. And I think you missed that. That's where I would push back. Although it's not nice to hurt other humans as well. So when it happens, and if we want to talk to either Michaela or Alex, and we think that we have to vocalize our truth, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's something what we have to do. I believe so. When it comes to veganism or any other mistreatment of human beings or animals or even plants, like sometimes we can hear that plants are very important and you vegans are killing them all. And so it's true. Whenever we see a value, we have responsibility. And I assume I have a new philosophical position here, which is responsibilitism. How about that?
I like it.
We should act on it whenever we can. And
So
it's not always easy yes or no questions, and it often
mhm.
comes with, like, whenever we make something, we have to make a decision sometimes either way, and there's loads of angles we can consider, like utilitarian thinking and or whatever is your mindset. It's not only that. There's a much more thick matrix which we have to navigate our decisions. And yes, we will make bad decisions that will probably haunt us forever afterwards.
Mhm.
But because of that, when you are, or anybody is in a position like Alex, he has to understand it will have some repercussions. Yeah, difficult
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was cutting you off.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, so I think it's complicated. So I think when
Yeah,
something is legal, so killing farm animals and all this, is legal, then when we talk to these people about our opinions, we're not going to get anywhere by telling them what they must do as if it wasn't illegal. Like, stop killing these animals. Because if they're doing it and they're wanting to do it, then any negativity isn't going to help. I think we should give all the information possible. We should explain ourselves with a reason and show, like, this is how they do this. They cut the tails off the pigs, they cut the teeth out, and we show them all the horrible things. And if that changes their mind, it does. But like making them feel like they're horrible people or throwing insults at them. Like, I don't know if you saw my most recent video I did about Joey Carbstrong, but he was just really horrible to this person in a way that would never have a positive effect. And so I do think that Alex, when talking to Michaela, he should, and I think he mostly did, state his true opinions just without being a jerk, I guess. And I like that. For example, me and you were talking about pet ownership.
yeah,
And I want to give you an example of my best argument for why I don't even think we should rescue pets. And I think it's a good argument. But once I'm done giving it, the routes I could go is I gave you that argument and you have it, or I could tell you how bad of a person you are for having a pet, which is the route I don't think people should go.
yeah.
Especially because I actually have 3 rescue guinea pigs. But I don't even believe in rescuing. I don't think we should rescue. I don't think we should have pets at all. And I think we should, it might even be in the pet's best interest for us to let some suffer in the moment to make a stand against it. And here's my argument. Imagine, now this is probably tricky depending on your knowledge of US history because you're in Hungary, but I'm not sure what the history of
Test it.
slavery. What's that?
Yeah, test it. I said.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure if you guys had much of a history of slavery or anything, but so
Well, slave comes from Slavic. So at
oh,
first, I
okay.
think the Romans did something like that, and they were capturing all these people from the Slavic nations.
Oh, interesting.
So
I didn't know
I
that.
think, and I like to use that because whenever I'm talking about slavery, it often turns to an argument, and racism comes in,
Of
and
yeah,
this
of
is something what
comparing.
we really have to tackle
Mhm,
as a society. And now 2 white men talking about
mhm.
racism. Uh,
Well, and the thing is, so I'm not even necessarily talking about racism. I don't care if the people in question, like the slave owners, can be pink
exactly,
and the slaves are blue.
exactly.
The color doesn't really matter. And I don't think people realize what the word comparison means. It doesn't always mean that they are
Yeah,
equal. It just means it's showing an example. And
yes,
so, and yeah, we have to figure out good ways to explain to people why we use the examples. But so get this idea. So imagine you're in you're in the South in the US in the early 1800s, and you're walking around, you don't have any slaves, you think it's immoral to have slaves, but people are selling slaves. And you're watching a slave, you're seeing this human on this stage being sold. Now, I'm going to tell you in this hypothetical, you have enough money, you have the option, you could buy
right.
that slave. And you could instead of letting somebody else buy that slave and whipping them and working them to death, you could buy that slave, take him home and say, "Hey, I don't believe in slave owning. I'm going to have you just live in my house and you're my friend. I can't think of any other way. I can't set you free because somebody else will take you. So just be my friend and have the best life you can. Would you buy that slave and do that, or would you let that slave go and have a horrible life?
If I say a yes or no answer, I will walk into your trap.
Yes, you will.
Because it's not exactly the same like having a rescue animal.
It's
because
not exactly
when you have
this.
a rescue,
Well, let's just go through the hypothetical, and then
okay.
but yes, I agree, it's different.
I would help that person.
See,
Yes.
and I think that's the morally wrong choice. I don't think you should.
I understand why.
Okay.
But here, when let's say there are all the slaves who are looking amazing, they are like super strong. You check the teeth or whatever, and it's all there, and it costs 2 golden coins. I'm not sure what they were using. I don't even know. Yeah, but there are other slaves which are about to get killed because no one needs them, and they are already old and all that. But if you want, you can have that. And if you would walk up to that person and say, look, I'm going to be responsible for your life. I'm going to give you food as long as I can. If you are ill, I will help you. I don't think it's contributing to the same business.
That's a fair point. Yeah. And I'll finish off the element of the hypothetical just for anybody listening, because I think it's an important idea, but I also think what you said is a very important element. So for anybody listening, the idea of wanting to purchase this slave so that person doesn't go and have a horrible life will be great for that one slave. But what's happening is similar to what we do purchasing meat, is you're putting it in demand. You buy that means we send another slave from Africa to be sold. You don't buy that slave and somebody else gets it, there's one less in demand, so they don't. So in a hypothetical where there aren't the slaves you're talking about, which I don't know if they existed, but they are more comparable to having rescue pets. If there were no slaves to take for free, but there were just the ones to buy, I think a lot of good people would buy them if they had the money for it and just have them be at their house and treat them well. But that problem is they put it in demand, and not only do they put it in demand, they normalize it. If somebody knows they have a person living in their house, then they say this is acceptable. And so it's why I probably shouldn't put out videos of my rescue guinea pigs, because they're so cute, and people will see these guinea pigs and they'll go, oh, I want to go buy one. And I don't know about in Hungary, but in here at the pet stores like PetSmart, they have guinea pigs in tiny cages that they look cute and people can go buy them. And if I have these rescue animals that I don't tell anybody about, I'm rescuing them and that's fine. But as soon as people see them and hold them and come over and they think they're cute, then I'm normalizing this idea of owning animals. You're
absolutely right.
So
this is the illegal thing, really. What happens here, we vegans, in the end goal, what we want to do, we wanna normalize being vegan. That should be the normal. That should be the baseline. And whenever we try to voice our thoughts about animals, then we have to consider other people, how they're gonna feel, because that's important. We are creatures of feelings, and feelings making, like, feelings helping the decisions on the end of the acts. So if we can make other people feel good, yet at the same time holding them responsible for what they're doing, I think it's the right thing to do, even if sometimes we may step on their toes. And what I mean, at first I saw earthlings as actually I was vegetarian for, like, I don't know, 10 plus years, 13 years when I turned vegan. And I saw this movie or video, and made me think, and I was upset, but I didn't want to act on it. I did not. But immediately afterwards, my girlfriend was playing another video from Yurovsky, the best
Mm-hmm.
video you can hear or something like that on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was mean. He wasn't kind. He was
Yeah.
very mean. But I was already in a stage. It was easy to make a decision like, yeah, you actually right, even though he was
Mm.
mean. So I think we need the whole scale when we're communicating. So I think there is the color is dark. What Joy does, Joy Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I like him. I think he's a very good guy, and he's a good-hearted person. He acts out of
Mm-hmm.
heart, and yeah, whenever he's mean to other people, I feel bad. So I have a secondary kind of like, oh no, you shouldn't say that. but
Mm-hmm.
but I understand why he does that, and it all comes out of compassion. So I have to be compassionate with him as well, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that some people might be turned off by that. So there are other people like yourself who is way more kinder than him.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be there. We are going to be there, and we only are responsible for our actions. So whenever and whatever we do, we have to rely on our life experience. So we always going to see like we couldn't say otherwise. Whenever we do something, there is really no other choice. There is already the deterministic action
Mm-hmm.
built in that very moment when we are acting out. So I don't think we should be always kind, but for
Yeah.
sure, what we want to do, we want to change legal status of the animal, really, so
Mm-hmm.
that we have to act. And when we're coming back to your rescue companionship, those lovely guinea pigs, I
Mm-hmm.
think if you do post them anything from other people, you have to make that caveat and make it sure how you can rescue these animals like I did. These are rescue animals, and if you voice it or write it down on the screen or whatever, then I think it's the good thing to do, because they are
Mm-hmm.
already out there. Theoretically, we could kill all animals which doesn't belong to nature,
Mm-hmm.
but that's on the very person who acts on it. So that also a moral
Yeah.
problem. So the best thing we can do is to help everybody, every creature.
Mm-hmm.
So including even plants, even though I don't think they have any consciousness at all. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, I think the first best step to do, or at least to push for with pets, is to make it illegal to sell animals. I don't think stores
yes,
should be able to sell them. And so there's that. But then
100% agree.
the next bigger step at some point in a perfect future, it would be something like um getting the government to have a section of land that is like a sanctuary of sorts. It's a piece of nature, but where we put domesticated animals, and they can, I mean, I don't know which ones would kill each other if you had like dogs and chickens in the same area, if it wouldn't go well. But if we were able to make it illegal to own any pets, and we put every type of pet in the sanctuary, and therefore we knew people weren't breeding them, because there's no way to force people to not breed animals if they have their own pets. So it would come down to having something like that, where if a pet was found, then it was taken there. And if somebody was found to be like smuggling this pet, we would treat it sort of like smuggling a human. Not to that exact degree as far as like punishment or anything, but yeah, I see that future as being a good one, because I've never heard it justified why we should keep animals trapped in our society, especially since we have cars and stuff like that that can kill them.
Yeah.
I'll throw out my quick idea of the only reasonable way that somebody can have a companion pet of sorts, but it's not even a pet, would be if you or I went out to the woods and say we were allowed to build a cabin. We build a cabin. The cabin has a doorway, but no door. A wild
Yeah.
animal comes in and plays with you, and it can leave at any time. That's
Yeah.
fine. You pet an animal in the wild, and they're fine with it. If a deer comes up to you and and you can pet it, that's fine. But anything past that, where you put a rope around it, where you lock it in a building, you lock it in a backyard, treating an animal well is better than people that don't treat them well. But I think the ultimate, if we broke down and became the best humans we could be and have the best laws we could have, we would not have any ownership over nature or
Yeah,
natural
I
animals.
completely agree with you. Whenever we're talking about horses,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like a very similar thing, because horses are used to now the humans, because they never seen nature, and
Mm-hmm.
people are like in Hungary, we even calling our nation, it's like a horse riding nation or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
in the imagination of the Hungarian people, because we're not really. So like we don't walking around in the city with horses or whatever.
Mm.
But many people claims that that's kind of something innate right kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's helping the horse. And I don't feel like that. I think if the door would be open and the horse would be able to survive, because it's not as domesticated, or it understands the nature's cycle and all that. I think we
Mm-hmm.
passed that line now, but maybe not. Like horses are in your country. There was the Mustang, that when they're like
Mm-hmm.
out there in the wild, and they are, I think, revilded animals, or so they.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were there before. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, horses were not in the Americas until
Yeah,
people from either England or Spain brought them over.
probably. Yeah. So when they escaped or stayed there without owners, they were like happy and becoming
Mm-hmm.
the same kind of group animal they are now. They
Mm-hmm.
are back in the days before they got domesticated. So I think
Mm-hmm.
horses can do very similar to your imaginary deer. I
Mm-hmm.
I really
Yeah.
like that the cabin thing.
Yeah. I would
And
even
look,
say if
yeah,
I would even say if a wild horse, like not trained and not broken, just a wild horse,
yeah,
if it let you without a saddle or anything, jump on it and go for a ride, go for it.
yeah,
As long as you're aware that it can throw you off of it,
yeah,
and it probably will. Same thing
probably yes,
if you're in the ocean and a dolphin comes up to you and lets you hold on while it goes for a ride, go for it. But
yeah,
not where you have
or a
to,
shark.
yeah, but not where you have to train them and essentially like hurt them to get them to say, I'm your master and I put this thing on your back. And
Yeah, that's where it goes wrong. You're absolutely right. And listen to this, like we've been talking about Alex, and Alex was challenging Ed Winters. You might
mhm,
have seen that video, like when you are in the wild and you realize that you have non-vegan food, would you eat it? You remember that?
yeah, yeah.
He had this sausage roll, and then like what he would do. And I think it falls back again to the very same responsibility. Like when you are there, you're doing that, and or is it vegan? That was the question. Is
Hmm.
it vegan? No, it's not vegan. And is it understandable? Yeah, I would understand, but I wouldn't do. And what for sure wouldn't do, I wouldn't not bragging, but I wouldn't advertise it.
Hmm.
And I would just say like, yeah, should I do evil thing when it's necessary? Yeah, but I would understand it's an evil thing. Like
Hmm.
whichever uh, animals or creatures I'm hurting with.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
would say it's not depending on how you, so there's two ways to look at veganism, I think. So you have strictly what you consume and purchase, like so you have meat, dairy, eggs, honey, and then not purchasing leather and fur and all this. And so in that sense it's not vegan, but in the philosophical sense of not wanting to harm animals, if I can't remember exactly how the talk went with Alex and Ed, I loved both talks they had. But if the idea is that you, let's say you're getting ready to go on a hike, and your partner is packing your bag and they accidentally put something not vegan in your bag, and then you go
Something
on
like
the
that was actually
oh, was it?
the
Okay.
scenario.
And
Yeah, that
then you
actually happened to Alex, but he was just revealing on the very end.
okay. And then so let's say you're on this hike and then let's say you get lost and you're stuck out there or something. Um or at least you're going to be out there long enough that that food will go bad before you can get back, and there's no animals that would eat that food. I would say it is not philosophically not vegan to eat it, because it's not much different than, say, finding roadkill and eating it, because there is a difference, because it was killed by somebody because of a demand that people made, whoever purchased that food. But if that is going to go bad, and it was, there's like no chance to, like, you eating it isn't putting it in demand, and
Understand.
you not eating it, it'll go rotten or whatever. I think I view that the same way I view like roadkill, or maybe if you have a bunch of rescue cows and one just has a heart attack of old age and falls over. I wouldn't eat it. I think it's gross to eat meat personally.
Yeah.
But if somebody ate it because they know they like the taste of meat and that cow just died on its own, I definitely think there's the difference is you have two elements. You have killing it on your own or putting it in demand, which makes somebody kill it. And for Alex's example, I don't think that's happening, but I do think it's a slippery slope for people that aren't like Alex, that maybe are being honest. Like, he's probably being honest. I'm probably
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that would go, oh, if it's already prepared, okay, maybe I'll eat it. And then they fall off the wagon and they're not vegan anymore. So I agree with you that it's probably not best to announce those ideas much, except for in a conversation like this.
Yeah. What I'm thinking, I disagree with you in that. Is it a vegan act? I don't think it's a
Hmm.
vegan act.
Okay.
So in any case, it is not a vegan act. Yet you are approaching in my, but you can of course correct me. Is it an evil deed to do that or not? And it is not. I don't think it is. Or self-harm can come into picture. Like, let's say you are really like starving and you can't walk anymore, and it's like a difficult walk because it's not just a simple walk around. You are in the nature and it's difficult, and yeah, you need energy, and then you can put yourself or your friends into harm's way if you don't eat or like feed your body well. Yeah, so understandable why he would do that, or even I would do that. Even I, of course, hope never gonna come to that, but I would do the same thing with a human being. But a whole time I would chew on a human baby in a situation like I can't do anything else. But that I will think it's wrong, and I would have bad conscience afterwards. And when it's not happening from any mental gymnastic, I can talk myself out to any bad things. And that should be the point. Like, yes, I understand why you did that, but no, you shouldn't do that. But understanding is key. So yeah, as you see, it comes back to that difficult matrix, the mesh of the actual existing in a very multi-dimensional world we are in.
Well,
we will make bad decisions. That's what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Gotcha. One example that's similar to that, a person I know that was, I think, just vegetarian, not vegan, but he worked at a restaurant. And at the end of the night, there was a certain amount of food that like was accidentally made that they couldn't save anymore. So they'd let the people that worked there have it. And whatever people didn't want, they would just throw away because they couldn't re-prepare it. So this person that did not eat meat, when he started working at this place, he would eat, because he was a very frugal person, very minimalist, doesn't like to waste stuff or spend money on stuff. He would any food that people didn't want that was going to go right in the garbage, he would eat, and it was tons of meat. And I think that's interesting. I don't think people should do it, especially because it's not good for your health, especially probably whatever the type of food this was. But somebody that's not worried about their health and just is consuming whatever that they think, they would rather consume that than to consume other stuff that would be basically making us more wasteful. So I don't know what I want to call that. It's probably something similar to like what you said, where it's not evil, because the evil part was the people putting it in demand to make the restaurant purchase it from the butcher butchering it.
I think so, yeah.
But it's an interesting element, but I think it is a slippery slope, and I don't usually like to focus on slippery slopes because that's just kind of a human error, and I hope humans can get over their slippery slopes. But since we know it's tough for them, it's probably best to recommend just don't do it. Just stay away from it.
Yeah.
So
I used to work in a restaurant in England where I was studying, and I was already vegetarian, and I was preparing all kind of food, so meat as well. And one point I turned vegan, and I just couldn't do that. I had to quit. I quit on the spot, and I just couldn't handle it. But on the other hand, I'm still in the same kind of dilemmas every day, because nowadays my fiance, she has some stuff she doesn't want to use anymore, and she's being kind to others and just giving it out for free. And often those people who come in don't like to come with empty-handed, and they bring in chocolate, and the chocolate most of the time contains milk. And here I am with a piece of chocolate bar, which I wouldn't eat because I just don't look at it like a food anymore. Like seriously, like I am looking at a purple brand, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's not even salivating on it or anything. So it just doesn't compute that way. And then, but I have this resource. Should I give it to my friends? If I'm giving it to my friend, I'm saying like, here, something you can have. This is a piece of food or resource to get your body nourished, and I just can't bring myself to do that. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I give it out to people I'm not that close.
So here's my argument for that, because I worked at a restaurant, or not a restaurant. I worked at a grocery store, and sometimes they'd have wild amounts of stuff that they would just give away. Like I remember there was this like 12 packs of cheese that was a very like expensive, fancy cheese. I was vegan, didn't want it myself, but it was the first time I questioned if I should give stuff that's not vegan to other people. And I thought about it, and I was thinking about how if I give this to a family member or a friend that eats cheese, then they aren't going to go to the store and buy cheese that week. They're going to have this cheese, and they were going to buy cheese anyway. So now they're putting less in demand. So if this got thrown away, then to the companies, it would be still the same demand. But if I give it to a friend and they eat it and they don't go buy stuff, there's at least that little bit of less demand. Same thing with chocolate and various different things. If somebody's going to buy it anyways, it's really hard to know if you gave it to a friend. Maybe that friend's actually trying to diet and they don't want to eat chocolate anyways, and you threw them off their diet. So maybe it's not good to give to them. Or maybe you can stand in a candy aisle at a store, and when somebody's about to buy it, be like, here's a free one, take this instead. But something to I think giving away free stuff that is, or like a belt, if you have a leather belt and you don't want it because you feel weird at being around your body, you could donate it to a store or give it to a friend that needs a belt, and therefore they're not going to buy a different leather belt. So I think it helps not put it in demand.
I see what you mean. I think what I do whenever I gave it to someone, I always say you shouldn't have it because it's not good for you. And it's especially not good for the animal. That's what I'm usually saying. Like it's not good for the cows.
Yeah, no, that's
and
great.
I keep saying that. And yeah, but on the other hand, I understand when somebody has like wearable stuff, which is stays with them for years, probably, like outfit and whatever, like a belt or a shoe. And I understand when somebody doesn't want to get rid of it, but I couldn't keep it after a while. I had a shoe, like a friend of mine bought the shoes, a pair of shoes, and then he realized that it's too small for him, and he's a very big guy. And then he just gave it to me, for free. Like, this is your size, and yeah, okay, I wanted to buy a shoe, especially it's an outdoor shoe, so it's like just a perfect timing, and it was a leather shoe, and like it has some elements of leather in it. And for a while I was wearing it, and one day I just like, no, I can't. I have to. Yeah, I just couldn't. But I understand why people are doing that. And but on the other hand, again, if there would have been money exchange, then it's a no-go in my eyes. So whenever you commit with your actions towards that thing you disagree with, you are in the wrong.
I can see that for sure. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just acknowledging that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that might be a good point to wrap it up. I actually have I'm glad that our conversation went the way it did. It was nice to be able to talk about pet ownership and all these various topics. There's so much more we could talk about, especially stuff with Alex. So we should set up another talk soon. But before we stop this recording, I wanted you to let people know where they can find you. I'll have a link in the description. But also, if anybody maybe from Hungary is watching this and they want to hear more about veganism, how they could contact you, or more so, if any vegans from Hungary want to contact you to get involved with what you do, maybe share some ideas of how to contact you.
Okay, so if you want to contact the things I'm doing, you want to type in maveg.hu, maveg.hu. That's the Hungarian Vegan Association website. So you will see various things there. If you don't speak Hungarian, there's not too many info, but we're working on it. Maybe when the time you will see it, maybe we will have more information out there. Yeah, it's not totally silent, so you'll understand what we are up to. Yeah, that's what I would recommend you to do. And whenever I can be a part of a conversation like this, I would do that. So please contact me and I'll be there for you.
All right, sounds good. Well, you take care. It's good talking to you.
And yourself, sir.